in 2013, Talع, who was a Waqf now, was appointed as a Waqf Zindagi by Hazrat Khalifatul Masih, and he was appointed under my supervision in the press and media office. And Talع worked there for 2-3 years in the press and media office.
So he was spending half his time in MTA News and half his time in press office. And on top of that, throughout the years, and he started becoming involved in Majlis Khudam al-Ahmadiyya as well. And he was also serving for a long period of time as the National State Jismani Secretary for Atfal al-Ahmadiyya. And then he also went on to serve as the editor of Tahir magazine. And then he did some other various roles in Majlis Khudam al-Ahmadiyya Ishat as well. So he was a very good all-rounder. Any spare time he had, really, he spent it figuring out a way where he could serve the Jamaat in new ways.
Talع Bhai was really obedient and had immense love for Khilafat, and that showed through his conduct, and whatever he said was in direct guidance of Hazrat Khalifatul Masih, may Allah be his helper. I remember clearly that a few months ago, when Hazrat Khalifatul Masih was carrying out virtual mulaqats, and in a few of those mulaqats, Hazrat mentioned that every murabbi should try to offer at least 1 hour of tahajjud. But Talع Bhai took this guidance upon himself, and he wanted to carry out as if he was given this direct guidance.
With just 3 days to go till Hazrat Khalifatul Masih addresses 35,000 Ahmadi Muslims at the opening session of Jalsa Salana Germany, preparations are already fast underway behind me.
It was decided that Talع would work in MTA News full-time. And it was around that time, or just a little bit before that, I'd been given the duty and responsibility of being the director of MTA News, in charge of that department.
Talع was of that young generation who brought some excitement and a breath of fresh air to that team, and really, changed the way in which the news was presented on MTA for the better, by far for the better, and clearly under the guidance of Huzur.
He didn't go to Jamia. His first love was, the work he did for the Jamaat, and that was always his sort of end goal, to sort of serve the Jamaat, which he ultimately did very successfully.
When he was State Jismani Secretary, he brought that into MTA News as well. He made sure that, if there's an opportunity to cover MTA News stuff whilst doing his Khudam al-Ahmadiyya stuff, he did that, and he did it so well as well that he covered Atfal Football League as part of MTA News, and he used to make stories about it regularly when the football leagues were running. And of course he did the Ahmadiyya Muslim Youth Football Club, a documentary as well for Love in the Game.
This project, undertaken without any technical or operational knowledge of cameras at that time by Sayyid Talع Ahmed, would be the start of a series of ever-increasing documentary projects that would go about diversifying the content produced by the MTA News team. Sayyid Talع Ahmed then turned his attention towards his hometown and the foundations of the Jamaat that were laid there by his maternal grandparents, the town of Hartlepool.
One of Tal's lasting legacies is that the standard of documentaries in MTA has definitely gone up, not just through the news department, but the production of producing documentaries in the last 2, 3, 4 years, which are of much higher standard to previous. And I think Tal's efforts have played a role in that.
Every program that he made, no matter what topic it was, whether it was the news items and the other documentaries that he made, his love for Khilafat and bringing people closer to Khilafat was a center theme. And I think in that regard, our next generations, our children owe a lot to him, because he played a vital role in that with his programs and documentaries.
Obviously, he made several excellent documentaries which touched the hearts of millions of Ahmadis around the world. But for me, I think his main legacy which he left was This Week with Huzur.
खलीफा के हम हैं खलीफा हमारा वो दिल है हमारा.
About 2-3 years ago, Talع came to me and he said that whenever Huzur has an event or a public event or a program, we publish a short report on that day But he said it doesn't get the exposure that it should. So we had a news slot every day, 15 minutes. So I said to him that, okay, this week just prepare something. Instead of putting any news, like world news or anything, we'll just put something regarding Huzoor's activities that week. So I'll give you the full slot. And so he prepared something and he sent it to me on WhatsApp or YouTube or whatever. And I checked it, and it was a very nice piece about some of Huzoor's meetings that week. And so I said, go ahead, put it out there. And then just before it was a couple of hours before he said to me, he said, well, what do we call it? We can't just call it world news. And I didn't have time to seek Huzoor's guidance on this because the broadcast was in an hour. I didn't have mulaqat, or I already had mulaqat that day. And so I was just racking my brains, and I said to him, for this week, just call it This Week with Huzoor. I said, it's a simple, basic thing. Just call it that.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to MTA News. Each week we bring you a brief glimpse into Huzoor's activities.
And mashallah, we got so much feedback on that first episode. I got calls after calls that we love this program. The viewership was very good. Throughout that early period, we used to produce everything. But I think this program really has come into its own during the pandemic, because people were desperate, especially in the early parts, to see Huzoor, to hear from him.
One benefit is that, which I get from this virtual mulaqat, is that I can see your faces. I can see how strong and staunch the people of the community are in their faith. And I can see the love for the Khilafat on their faces, as I can see on your face. So this is the benefit which I am also getting.
अगर 10 साल काम किया है तो 10 साल में से शायद उसने एक लम्हा भी ज़ाया नहीं किया अपने काम से. अगर वो मसलन हम लोग आपस में बैठे बातें भी करें तो उसमें से भी वो अपने काम से जो उसके जहन में प्रोजेक्ट होते थे ना, उसकी बातें शुरू कर देता था, उसमें से भी वो निकाल लेता था.
We were on holiday in Pakistan, and the whole trip, just doing work the whole time. He was taking interviews of people. We went on a tour of the city of Lahore, and he had his camera the whole time, and he was trying to get the most scenic shots. And he said to me that last time I came, you know, it was his holiday from work, so he didn't take any work, which is what most people would do. But he said he realised that he enjoys his time the most when he's doing work. So he said, this time, I've made sure that I'm doing work the whole time. And he loved that trip, mashallah. And it was a big part of it was because he got to do work for MTA the whole time that he was there.